Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, just send us a feedback in the chat. Just let me know that you can hear me, that all is working well over there. Ah, that's good. Thanks very much, Geraldine. Appreciate the feedback. Okay. So yeah, just a spontaneous live stream. Jen thought this was a really, really good idea to just hop on and talk a little bit about this new moon that's happening in Libra, sharing our insights and thoughts. So we are going to do that. Hello to everybody. Hi, Geraldine. Hi, Stephen or Seven. Bartek, how you going? Somebody from Australia right at the beginning. I can't pronounce your name. Zambahala. I hope I got that right. Penelope. Let's see. Isabel. Andy. Angela. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why the mic is softer. I can't actually... I'm going to go and test it here to see, but everything's at 100%. And maybe it's just if I move my... my mouth away from it. I can try something here. Let's see if this... Oh, that is... Nope. I'm just busy looking to see if I can test the mic, but those settings look awfully complicated that I don't want to mess with. Okay. All right, good. Mercury ascending. Hello, the Butterfly Effect. Greetings. Hello, everybody, to live stream. I hope that you're all doing well under this energy at the moment. Pandora, it's Cat. Hi, Cat. Okay. So, the sound is low. I have jacuzzi bubbles on. Brilliant. Cool. New moon in Libra. This is a really intense energy for the next couple of days. And I suspect that most people that you've probably listened to have in some way, shape or form alluded to this. And also it being October as well, a lot of intensity, especially because of this sun square that's been going on with Pluto and Saturn. And then on the other side, you've got Mars that's sitting there in Aries, and it's also been squaring Pluto. Now, from my point of view, Mars is retrograde square Pluto. So everything, while it seems like it's boiling out into the surface, there's a lot of internal combustion that's taking place for us all. So been very, very emotional, I suspect. So just a couple of things I wanted to shout out to before we jump into talking about this new moon is, if you don't know, we have an Instagram account, and to go check out our Instagram. I'll actually post it in the chat for you, and also in the description below in the comments. Okay, so if you want to follow us on Instagram, we do loads of content updates over there. So yeah, we just like to create on Instagram, create content there. So if you want to follow us there, I will put it in the chat, and then if you're watching this after the fact, of course, then you'll just check out on the description or comments section. Okay. We have a Patreon community, which is what we use to share content, just like we do. We share pretty much a lot of it openly, but we do have private conversations within our Patreon community. So if you're interested in actually connecting with us on one-on-one, and just having a community space to be able to process what you might be processing through, that's also something that's available, that Raising Vibrations sets up specifically to kind of create a space to talk about stuff. Okay. So that's that. And I think we just talk about this new moon. So a little bit from the human design perspective, there's a lot that speaks to wanting to live and change in a new direction, right? Wanting to move in a new direction. A lot of growth taking place for us. A lot of energy that is wanting to transmute, okay? And the astrology kind of reflects that in the same way as well. There's a lot of energy at the moment that's really advocating a new direction for us. And you can see this with the Mars retrograde that's in opposition to the Sun and also squaring Pluto. Internally and externally, we're making shifts within our lives at the moment. And that can be as simple as like just deciding to do meditation for yourself every single day, deciding to integrate something new into your life. It doesn't have to be something, drastic and dramatic. It can just be a radical shift within something inside of yourself. And I think it stems a lot from the Uranus in opposition to Mercury and Scorpio that's kind of promoting an investigation into our values and what do we constitute our values to be? How do those values guide us? That's something that's really important to understand about the nature of your values, is that the grounding principle, the grounding essence of your values do actually guide you. You use them as markers to say, this is what I consider to be important or not. This is what I consider to be valuable or not. So this Mercury-Uranus opposition advocates for a lot of internal shifting that we're taking place or having within ourselves, and it has a lot to do with the way that we're actually languaging things, how we communicate, how we may have labeled things in the past, and how that has been a reinforcing behavior pattern that says to us, okay, so if this is our life and this is how we want to run it, or these are the stories that we tell ourselves in order to reinforce a specific belief system or a coping mechanism or a pattern of behavior or something that prevents us from stepping into the unknown to explore something new within us. That Mercury in opposition to Uranus really wants to kind of, it's kind of pointing a little bit downstairs in that basement of your unconscious and saying, well, have you considered what type of language you use to validate your reality? How do you communicate with yourself? If you are somebody that is working with the Steve Walker book or Pete Walker's book on complex post-traumatic stress and understanding how the superego, as in the part of us that is either externally critical or internally critical. We're always putting these pressures on ourselves, and how we're trying to meet these undertones of perfectionism within us. That would be an example of how this Mercury opposed Uranus aspect would be kind of really trying to get to the core of how you language your reality and how the subconscious within your life actually drives a tremendous amount of your behavior patterns. And then you can even go as far as to see that how cultural norms and conditioning patterns of the past intertwine with the way that you make up reality. So again, a lot of this energy at the moment, from as I see it, looking at the astrology chart, is speaking a lot to a transformation, a metamorphosis around the way that you have languaged your life, the way that you have communicated, as I said, ideologies, truths, perspectives, how you internalize them, and how they become the guiding principles for your life and the values that you hold in them. And this slow, progressive emotional material that's been coming to the surface, because a lot of us have been experiencing a tremendous amount of childhood wounds that have been showing up to the surface. And you may think to yourself like, whoa, I thought I worked on this, or maybe I dealt with it. These types of energies are really going deeper into the core structure, the root of it. Why did this happen? Or not even why, actually. It's more along the lines of how did this happen? Seeing the attachment or the unresolved material, and then allowing yourself to look at the same event, but from your adult perspective or from your more grown-up perspective, and just ask yourself, does this coping mechanism or pattern of behavior or thinking pattern still serve my life? And it's these small incremental shifts within ourselves that we might not necessarily fully see in this present moment or in the couple of days leading up to this, and even going a little bit forward. But it actually will make a tremendous amount of change in your life once you start to free yourself from a lot of these things that I've been sharing. And again, this energy, when we're dealing with patterns of energy like Capricorn and Libra and Aries, and I've spoken about this in other videos, these are cardinal signs. So they are within the context of our psychological and emotional behavior. They reflect the initiation of change. So we're dancing and shifting from one sense of identity or an attachment to an identity into something that's completely new. And we progress a little bit, and then we feel a little bit uncertain or insecure about, how we're forming a new reality or a new pattern of behavior. And then we regress a little bit back to the old, and that feels outdated and non-progressive. And so then we kind of move a little bit forward. We do this dance between back and forth until eventually we make that internal shift and we commit. So the fact that the sun and moon are is in Libra, squaring Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars retrograde in opposition, you can see that there is a dance happening here between an internal sense of self and the relationship to how you want to direct your life, and then the Libra, which is where the sun and moon is, kind of illuminating the rebalancing act, where we may have extremes or polarizations within ourselves, or where we have these two parts of ourselves that are perceiving themselves as separate, but in a sense really are actually holistic, and we're just trying to kind of find that equilibrium or that balance within ourselves. So there's a lot of internal change and shift that's taking place for us at the moment. And then, of course, the Mercury retrograde. And there's a video on the YouTube that actually talks about that in depth. Okay. Neptune's opposition to Venus is also something worth actually talking about a lot. And, of course, Neptune itself, within the context of how it shows up in our lives, will range from experiences of subtle but yet profound, subtle disenchantments, coming to realize something, having an aha moment. It's more of an Uranian thing, to be honest, your aha moments, but more along the lines of just seeing something a little bit clearer, or connecting to a deeper space within inside of yourself that opens you up to more clarity about something. And then the polarity, which is, of course, the entire confusion. And I can definitely put up my hand and say that I kind of swaying between incredible states of understanding or mystical experiences of something, and then trying to bring it into the physical and being like, whoa, this is really too intense. I need a lot more time to reflect on and get to the essence, Neptune, of what it is that I'm really feeling, sensing, and experiencing at this moment. So that opposition, mechanically speaking, in other words, how those aspects will just play out, not what the evolutionary intention is in relation to other planets, can feel like a nebulous sense of moving into a state of connection and meaning, and then kind of moving out and feeling a sense of meaningless or hopelessness or despair. And again, this Neptune in opposition to Venus energy is actually beautiful within the context of the symmetry of the chart, because this has a lot to do with the shifting of your values, the core value. And this contributes a lot to the overall kind of message with this chart, is that the energy at this time is really, really, really opening us up. We're opening up to explore new vistas. We want to open up our vision a little bit and say, what, I want to do things this way, or this is how I want to navigate this way, or here's what I'm going to do, or moving into a different direction. So this sense of initiation is actually pretty strong with this chart, I think, and it contributes a lot to a shift in perspective. Okay. So again, with the astrology at the moment, I've actually got some notes over here that I want to talk from, and I think the first one that I want to look at is the 18th of October. So the 18th of October, we have Sun in Libra squaring Pluto, Saturn in Capricorn, and then we've got this Venus opposition with Neptune. So let me just do this over here on the 18th. So if you can see my marker over there, I tried to look for a marker that actually highlights the cursor, but that was a really terrible experience. So for now, we'll just use this marker over here. Hopefully you can see it. So the sun's sitting there 25 degrees. As you know, you can see it's an exact square to Saturn. Now, this square between the sun and Saturn in the chart is a crisis and action square. Okay, so what we're dealing with here with regards to this crisis and actions is an individuation process but not in the sense where you're breaking out of collective ideals and norms, but more in the sense that we're trying to initiate something new into our lives. And the core of this initiation carries with us a sense of value that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks. Okay, so the Saturn's Sun square is about becoming more authentic in what it is that is really meaningful and creatively purposeful for you. You know, what really lights you up. And so with this exact square that's taking place, the intention here is to allow yourself the freedom to know that as you move in a new direction and express yourself, it hasn't developed itself yet. And you don't psychologically and emotionally know what the experience of this new paradigm of life is about. So it's very much about just trying it out and being comfortable with the uncertainty. And patience is the key. You'll see that Saturn and Mars and the Sun and Saturn in this T square that they're having with each other indicates that this is a growing process, right? So we're growing into this new direction. It's not like, okay, cool, we're done, I'm doing this over here. It is a aspect of maturation that is developing for us right now. The shift in perspective internally within us is a change within our ability to feel a sense of longing for something and being disciplined enough to consistently move forward with that process. Okay. Yes, I thought the same, Bartek. I thought the same, that it was a crisis in consciousness square, but it's not, because the Sun is the 0 point and Saturn is sitting at 25 degrees. So we're dealing with an aspect that is in a crisis in action. I thought it was a crisis in consciousness as well when I originally wrote it. You can see Saturn and Libra within an expectation square of breaking out, but again, the Sun, the focal point in relation to Saturn. Okay. So the 18th is something where, you know, we're looking to kind of just move ahead with something in a very deliberate and consistent way, and patience is the key. This moon the Neptune oppose Venus archetype. So what we have here is a gibbous phase opposition. So this opposition between Neptune and Venus, it's literally in an opposition, but it starts off as gibbous phase and then moves into a full phase. So what we will experience here is an initiation into social expression. So we're going to kind of really want to express our needs in a very social way. Okay, this is what I believe in, this is what I feel, here's my needs. And what you will interface with is both an uncertainty of the way that it's going to show up for you and the reflection of uncertainty. And you're also going to need to integrate that the feedback from the environment is either saying, it's like a traffic controller. It's like saying, okay, by the way, this is the way that seems fluid and meaningful for you, and this is the way that seems that it's part of the past. So we're literally kind of in a seesaw experience of balancing the relationship between the old and the new within yourself and within the context of the reality around you, right? So as you shift internally and life shifts externally, and you initiate yourself into these new directions, you will always experience the patterns of the past there, and you want to kind of just be very clear about what it is that is meaningful for you. What's the cornerstone of your values, and you want to be consistently nurturing that over a period of time. Okay, remember, patience, prolonged maturation is the key to this energy at the moment. Okay, all right. So we're transitioning from the old values to the new. Now, let's have a look. On the 19th of October, and I thought that this was pretty cool, to be honest. Now on this chart, it doesn't actually show up, but when I was doing the chart earlier today, Mars was sitting at 19 degrees Aries, Jupiter was sitting at 19 degrees Capricorn, and Venus was sitting at 19 degrees Virgo as well on the 19th, right? So on the 19th of October, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus will actually be at exactly 19 degrees as they form these aspects. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So to me, that signifies something really interesting. Venus, again, in trine to Jupiter, Saturn, And Pluto indicates, again, this maturation process, one step at a time, moving forward with intent, right? So remember, Mars and Pluto is about really coming in alignment with something very specific, very clear, getting to the core of your desire. This is the background here. So Venus is trine to Jupiter. Saturn and Pluto is consistently making it more precise, attuning to your values. What's the core value that you have in your life? What is the foundation for what it is that you feel meaning is for you? What gives you purpose? How do you cultivate this consistently every single day is the message here with this aspect. Now, Venus in conjuncting Mars in this context speaks to a process of adjustment. So while Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter are trining Venus, Mars and Venus are having this conversation where we're kind of just becoming a little bit conscious of certain experiences that are teaching us where we feel that there needs to be more attunement and more adjustment with your value structure. Okay. So that aspect over there is literally just kind of prodding us along to move forward with something, but we won't experience it as, aha. It's more along the lines of, I see how that experience has actually brought me in more closer to my inner relationship to myself. And here's where I see that I can make certain adjustments within my value structure or my pattern of thinking that really gives me agency going forward. I feel more aligned with my authenticity and my core. Okay. So that's that aspect there between Mars sitting retrograde in Aries and, of course, Venus. Now, one of the things with this aspect as well is that whenever a retrograde planet aspects another planet, you're going to have that planet move in a retrograde form as well. So Mars in relationship to Venus here, Venus is acting in a retrograde way, specifically with Mars. Okay, so not with Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. So we're almost in a sense getting a Venus retrograde effect with that Mars, and that's why this is an internal adjustment process. Okay. All right. So let's go over to what else do we have over here? Jupiter-Mars aspect, that's the square that's taking place. Now, this square between Jupiter and Mars, again, this is a crisis in action square. So we're initiating something new. And while the initiation and movement into something new is, very present within us, the reality around us and the psychological and emotional connection to this new reality is still under development. So again, as you can see here, there's a consistent impulse to really act upon new desires and on these new values and really kind of move in a direction and align yourself with that. But at the same time, it's not like, hey, by the way, here's jet engines and just rocket. It's consistent, meticulous, process active. What do I do next? Here's my process. It's an unfolding experience. Okay. And as I said, with Mars retrograde, it's connecting to Jupiter. So therefore Jupiter acts in a retrograde form as well, even though it's direct, just with Mars and Jupiter. So again, we are inwardly reflecting around the values and how these values then become the constitution for our reality. In other words, what's occurring here is we're looking up at our constitution, our cosmology, our guiding principles, our system of thought, and we're saying, do I value this or do I value that? Do I value that? Do I value this? And we're kind of compiling a structure or a code of conduct for ourselves. And this is a process of coming into alignment internally and becoming more attuned with this process, becoming more authentic in what's legitimate and real for you. Okay? With that aspect. All right, so 20th of October, Venus in Virgo squares Gemini. So here you have Venus, okay, sitting there at 21 degrees Virgo. The nodes are sitting at 21 degrees Virgo, Sagittarius and Gemini. It's not a coincidence that the moon crosses over the south node at this time. I mean, come on, right? It's like we have this new moon, and then the moon crosses Mercury. It contains new moon energy and Mercury energy with it, and then goes over the south node just as Venus begins its intense apex square with the nodes. Now, when you're looking at this chart over here, you've got to see that there's Mercury in opposition to Uranus. There's Mercury conjuncts Chiron. you have, again, the sun's trining the north node, which is great. The ongoing square with Mars and Pluto and Jupiter, etc. And then the moon is on the south node. So now what you're trying to see with this chart over here is that the context of Venus retrograde, or sorry, not Venus retrograde, but Venus squaring the nodes, the way that we've got to really see this pattern is movement forward and continuation and integration of a new set of language. Okay, and the reason why I say language is because, again, Mercury is the ruler of the North Node. We're looking at Venus and we're saying, so what type of language do you use within your day that manifests, in a sense, the reality that it is that is attuned to your core values? So what are your core values? How do you script those core values? And what is the code that you use to run that manifests the day that you have? So what is the core value? And how do you go, well, I value this? And you actually say it. You say it out loud. You're expressing this, whether it be through conversation, whether it be primarily to yourself, because you're using your language to build the structure of thought that it is that guides you. So Venus here is about attunement into the language that you use, the value structure, and the language you use to value to compound and attach and synthesize with your overall reality. Okay, this is a consistent process. And again, with the moon moving on the south node, it indicates an illumination from the past. So the way I see it is that we are, in a sense, taking an entire cosmological overlay, cultural norms, cultural perspectives, ideologies, perspectives, etc., that are, you know, pushed through social media, etc., and your own narratives, right? Anything that's got to do with a belief system that has been pushed onto you, or not pushed onto you, but it's there and you ascribe to, you've got to ask yourself the question, am I attuned to this philosophy of truth that reflects my inner values? And if the answer is no, or you feel a discord with that, examination needs to take place, right? Further investigation needs to get into the core of what it is that your guiding principle is about. Because we're literally building a guiding principle so that when Saturn and Jupiter actually enter Aquarius, this guiding principle becomes the way that you actualize, you creatively express and self-actualize. So this structure of thought is coming now into a funnel of aligning and attuning your values, and everything building up to this point in time will contribute to this behavior. And of course, you can see the sun at 27 degrees of Libra advocates and shows us that we're nearing the cycle of completion here around this social interaction. So social interaction is a big part of this energy cycle within October and up until the next new moon or full moon, adjustment. Okay. So again, peak experiences and integration around new ideas, new perspectives, trying to become more aligned and attuned with what's authentic for you. Now, on the 21st of October, we have Pluto sitting at 22 degrees, Venus sitting at 22 degrees. We have a beautiful trine that's taking place. And what occurs here is that as Venus is now squaring the nodes, Pluto's coming along and saying, okay, here's what doesn't work. And you emotionally now let go of that process. You move through that process. You let go of the security attachment linked with the philosophy or the ideology or the perspective of truth. And as I said, you move, you let that go, and you commit. Scorpio, right? Pluto, you commit to something, you osmosis something, you become bonded with it. You say, this is the structure. You emotionally anchor into your awareness consistently the state of mind, the language, the value structure, and the attunement that you have with yourself. This is the core intention here with this archetype. So that trine is advocating and showing us that now it's business, Pluto, right? We're not in little fairyland with this energy. We're like, are you ready for this or not? Are you committed to this process or not? And that emotional commitment to that will lead to metamorphosis and transformation. Okay, so again, emotionally investing in your self-worth, emotionally investing in stronger foundations of your value, checking in with your self-esteem, working through any codependency patterns of wanting to people please in that sense, and allowing yourself to really become aligned with what is authentic for you. Okay. All right. So 22nd of October, which is literally, of course, the next day, the sun will enter Scorpio. It's sitting at 29 degrees. And we also have, let's see, sun into Scorpio and Mercury is quincunxing Aries. So again, this aspect here between Aries and Scorpio, right? Again, this is about adjustment and attunement, and this is about really coming into contact with some doubts or fears that you might contain as you move into this new direction, as you feel that you're making progression and shifting yourself into something that's more in alignment with your core truth. This is a peak experience with this energy. So this adjustment will naturally occur as the sun and Venus are making a trine to the North Node, Sun trining the North Node, and Venus trining Pluto. So this Sun in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio conjunction, and then squaring Chiron speaks to this sense of just checking in with any lingering feelings that say, oh, are you really sure about this? Can you trust this? Are you 100% certain? If you don't really believe it, then this is where you might feel like this is where you want to give up. So that current energy gives us the capacity to say, this is my boundary, this is my space, this is my definition. Or it can look more along the lines of like a victimization, feeling disempowered in this process. I'm never going to get it right. That language that can show up as self-doubt, okay? All right. 24th, Saturn, Venus make a square, and this is a continuation of the Pluto, trine that's taking place. So now that Venus trines Saturn in its exact trine and moves across it, we take the Plutonian and we take the Sun in conjuncting Chiron, and we say to ourselves, all right, I'm emotionally investing. This is it. I'm committed here. This is where I'm growing up. This is what I'm prepared to accept and acknowledge as the time that I want to invest into this new direction, and I'm fully in, right? Literally, I'm fully in. I'm fully here, fully present for this process. If I want to make it work, if I want to pursue this is who I am. I'm going to do that. And that energy really just supports that sense of structure, right? And that's the key here. With all of these planets in Capricorn and Venus aspecting it, it's like really becoming attuned with the structure, really becoming attuned with specific step-by-step actions and processes, and how things are maturing and growing for you. Again, this is Earth energy, so it's about growth, right? We're growing here with this energy, emotionally maturing. Okay. So 25th of October, the Sun in Scorpio, we talked about that actually. Again, just a new burst of energy that wants to take place with the Sun-Mercury conjunction now. And again, this Mercury-Sun conjunction, it's like essentially all of these transits that we've been having up until this point in time, Mercury-Sun will just go, and what will actually occur, and I know this is going to sound a little bit kind of out there, but the potential for new neurological pathways to actually begin to form relative to what you've been doing up until this point in time is highly available. Okay, it always is, but the capacity to rewrite the actual neuroplasticity within your brain is highly available at this point in time. So using the Sun-Mercury conjunction and experiencing this new burst of energy to discover and explore and express yourself according to all of the work that you've been doing up until this point in time, this is the green light, okay? All right. Okay, 26th of October, not much happening. 27th, Mercury and Venus. So Mercury sitting there at 20 degrees. I talked about this in the Mercury retrograde video. Mercury goes into Libra, and so does Venus, right? And we talk about that new moon, or that moon energy that's now going to come into Aries, and that's what it is. This is just kind of air sign energy now. So we're out of this very kind of earthy, watery transmutation energy that's materializing for us, and we're coming into a lot more kind of intellectual, in open space. We're communicating here. We're having conversation. We want to communicate. We want to express. We want to interrelate with people. And from my point of view, when I look at this over here and I see the symmetry of the chart, this is the potential to test your new sense of self in relation to social interaction. And while it seems really, really cool that we might become a little bit more intellectual and philosophical, we might be expressing ourselves and, being very airy in our nature, this is an invitation to actually become very aware of the values that you've kind of anchored in yourself over here. How do they now become interrelating with in a social context? How do they meet with the other? How is your sense of adjustment, tuning with other people or not? So I think we're going to get a lot of kind of conflict with this energy through the 28th and 29th. And again, the reason why this is the case that I see it is the energy shifts from internal process to maybe wanting to share some of your thoughts and ideas and perspectives. And again, because it's so fresh and new, it needs time for adjustment. It needs time to kind of align. And so there's going to be mismatches that will take place in the way that we communicate and so on and so forth. So this is kind of just a social attunement process that I see with this Venus entering Libra, and of course Mercury entering Libra as well. And yeah, just to kind of conclude with this energy at the moment, and of course we'll be having the full moon happen in Taurus, and up until that point in time, a tremendous amount of energy is just adjustment, just moving slowly, progressing slowly, allowing the natural time that things take to make changes within yourself. Again, Mercury is still retrograde, Mars is still retrograde, so this is not about gun-ho experience, but it is about becoming very attuned to the changes that are taking place in your life and feeling something new wanting to emerge out of you. It's just about embarking on a new direction and of discovery, and you'll face your limitations and you'll face your fears, and this is about transmutation, and it takes time. It takes time to transmute. So stay true to your core and allow yourself to feel that the sense of connection that you have to yourself is guiding you at all times. Don't fear that you're going to be sort of wandering off into the distance and not being able to see the unfolding of your presence take place, right? This energy is really about coming into attunement with that. Okay? All right. So that concludes this conversation today on this chart. I really hope that you found some value in what we shared. And, just to remind everybody, on our Instagram, we've got an Instagram that we post all cool creative things to, and I'll put that in the chat again for you guys, and also for that you're watching this after the fact, and a Patreon community, and anything else that you like about our work. We have a website as well, and you can come check out our stuff over there. All right. Cool. So thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed this live stream, everybody. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll speak to you